Previously on Zoo Tours, I basically walked us around, summarized and reviewed Brookfield Zoo Chicago to 1. Prepare anyone if they wanted to make a visit, and 2. Give anyone who watches this video an idea of the zoo's layout, exhibits, and species to help you follow along my breakdown of their master plan. I'm a little late to the party, but in July 2024, Brookfield Zoo Chicago released their $500 million Next Century Plan, an outline of most or all of their major upcoming attractions and renovations over the next few decades that will transform nearly half of the park that you see today. I'm already willing to say that it may one day turn Brookfield into a top 5 zoo in the country. Like I did in my last video, I will follow the order that I take on my actual visits and summarize all of the changes that may one day come. As a reminder to those who don't quite know how master plans work, what you will see and hear today are not concrete plans. Most of these are just ideas to make visitors and, more importantly, investors happy, and they will take time, maybe even decades, before they are truly finalized and made into reality. So with that, let's start at the North Gate. No longer will you have to walk nearly 900 feet to see the first major attraction, which is the Fragile Kingdom and the Desert's Edge. The plan describes that the re-envisioned North Gate Plaza will have a permanent butterfly house, a discovery center, not sure what that is, and straight ahead, you can kind of see a hint of the Pacific coast of the Americas, dedicated to the shores of California and Peru. That means the seals and sea lions will move from the current Sea Lion Cove to a new Sea Lion Cove. Right now there are no detailed renderings, but the map implies that there will be one habitat rather than the 4 separate spaces that they live in right now. I don't have much of a problem with what they have now. I actually think it kind of holds up for opening in 1987, but some of the rock work does bring down its quality just a bit. If I had to guess what the new space will look like, based on what we have so far, it kind of seems like it will be a mix of Houston's Galapagos Islands and St. Louis's Sea Lion Sound. But that's not all. Humboldt penguins will be joining them in a nearby exhibit. Currently, they live in a domed walk-through aviary in the Living Coast Aquarium, alongside terns and gulls. This is one of my favorite habitats in the zoo, but the plan does imply that the new space will have a similar look. The terns and gulls will move with the penguins, and it will correct the current enclosure's only flaw, that you will finally be able to see the seabirds swim underwater. No renderings for this one either, but I like to think that it will be a mix of the vibe that they have going on right now with the open layout of SeaWorld Orlando's Antarctica. And that takes us to the Fragile Kingdom, 3 different exhibit areas in one. The Desert's Edge, the Big Cat Row, and the Clouded Leopard Rainforest. The desert and the forest still hold up in my eyes. The grottos, though, not so much in everyone's eyes. Rather than renovate or expand them, this implies they're going bye-bye. The animals will be moved elsewhere in the park, and even though these were part of opening day history, sometimes it's good to say goodbye. In part of its place will be a 4,000-seat amphitheater that will host concerts and animal presentations, as you can see, more specifically, macaw presentations, who are currently not in the greatest situation at the moment. But hold up, what you see in the background though, that is the Sloth Bear Grotto. Is it an artist rendering mistake, or is the map wrong? I guess we will just have to wait to find out. So one reason why I'm okay with the sea lions moving into a completely new area is because the cove is getting replaced with our rivers to the Gulf. A dolphin exhibit described as a mangrove landscape where connections between the Illinois River and the conservation efforts of the Gulf of Mexico are made. As you can see, all of this is supposed to be under a dome, and the shape is even visible on the map. Clearly, part of it goes outside of the ring, implying that the dolphins will have access to the outdoors, and the description of this plan does confirm this. I'm definitely most excited for this one. Out of like 60 dolphin habitats in the US, there are maybe like 5 that can be considered good, and none of them exhibit this level of naturalism. Not especially in the current 7 Seas panorama, which can be best critiqued as your average dolphinarium. However, it looks like for now, the 7 Seas is here to stay alongside the Rivers to the Gulf project. Moving down to the East Mall, it looks like it'll be getting a zip line. Now that one is self-explanatory, So let's take a look at the Hamill family wild encounters. If you paid attention to last week's video, you know that this is one of Brookfield's 2 children's zoos, home to reindeer, wallabies, budgies, and more. It doesn't look like anything is changing there, and I wouldn't expect it to because it opened in 2015. But right across from it is a wall. And behind that wall are the old 1930s bear grottos that somehow displayed animals up until 2008. They are still intact and will be repurposed for red pandas, wolverines, the sloth bears from the Big Cat Row, and now this one seems a little far-fetched. The zoo might somehow try to bring in sun bears, a species that's being phased out of the US. And when I say repurposed, it's implied that they will keep the original backdrops, which is fair because it saves money, so why not? But it will be interesting to see how they will make these more appropriate for the future residents. Fortunately, you don't have to wait for at least one of these projects to open because the first major change opened this year. I've already covered it twice, so sorry if you've been there, done that, but Tropical Forests was a long-awaiting response to Tropic World, a giant forest of concrete that didn't let any of the animals go outside, including their gibbons, orangutans, and gorillas, which obviously is a big no-no. Now, there are 4 outdoor and 1 indoor space reserved for spider monkeys, African monkeys, and all 3 apes. But like I said, I already went over this. If this is your first time hearing about it, here is a link to my walkthrough of Tropical Forest. So in that case, we are going to move towards the southwest corner of the zoo, which I have to warn, there's not a lot of details, so some of these will be quick. Behind the Feathers and Scales building will be the spot for the South American Andean lagoons. Right now it looks like it's just a garden and a picnic space. There isn't any true description of it, other than the fact that it might be nearly half an acre. The symbol is a flamingo, and when zoo enthusiasts think flamingos, and you throw the words Andean lagoons into the mix, I think they're holding out for Andean flamingos, which are found in like 2 zoos around the world. So it will most likely be Chilean flamingos, which are far easier to obtain. This blue building right now is the Living Coast, one of the best zoo-based aquariums in the nation, and I was hoping that this one would be here to stay and basically untouched. But since the penguins and the gulls are moving to the other side of the zoo, the Living Coast will become Amazon waters. Sadly, there are no 3D renderings or even descriptive details, but I envision there will be elements of Zoo Miami's River Giants tank and Shed Aquarium's Amazon Rising. Behind that, all of this right now, from my understanding, is nothing. Just an accessible forest. On the right side of the Salt Creek, we'll have the 2.5-acre large South American Pantanal. Again, no details. On the left side, the North American grasslands, which all we know for now will welcome bison and brown bears from the Great Bear Wilderness, along with a mixed species habitat with elk and pronghorn, another species that's getting more and more difficult to obtain. We're also going to be able to enjoy a new restaurant, and above that, the Himalayas and the Central Asian steppe. The Amur leopards, Amur tiger, and snow leopard from the Fragile Kingdom will move here. And we actually do have a rendering of this one. Another one of the things that I'm most excited for is this predator and prey arrangement, where snow leopards are in the foreground and Sichuan takins are right behind them. And I really hope that it will look as natural as it does in this graphic. Back on the other side of the creek, this area that's highlighted is the current Wolf Woods, which might one day be renamed as the North American Woodlands. Now based on this, it looks exactly like it does today, which makes sense because if there was any exhibit in the zoo that should go untouched, it's definitely this one. Now Wolf Woods does go hand in hand with the Great Bear Wilderness, or the future lot of the Tundra Taiga. Right now there are 5 total exhibits. 1 for bald eagles, 3 for brown and polar bears that rotate, and a prairie for American bison. All that's revealed so far is that it looks like there will be 7 habitats. I'm guessing the polar bears will continue to have multiple spaces, and caribou will take over for the bison. I'm hoping they can get a hold of wild caribou, and it isn't just going to be a herd of domestic reindeer. Looking north, all of that green and all of that gold is one large African expansion called Gateway to Africa. It's so large that it will cover nearly 30 acres, including undeveloped behind-the-scenes space, and it will be divided into 4 different sections. We'll start here in the Central African Forest, the current site of Habitat Africa, the forest, home to several duikers, okapis, river hogs, and the only pangolin on display in America. This Central African Forest shows that pygmy hippos will have 2 spaces, bongo antelope will go here, and the pangolin might get an outdoor exhibit. Now, there's no mention of the okapi from what I saw, but I don't see Brookfield going without them, so fingers crossed on that one. The rest of the green space is labeled as the South African Forest. Lions will go here. We might see the return of Congo buffalo here, and that one is a huge order, an even bigger order than the sun bears. The zoo used to have them in the African forest and hoofed mammal region, but reportedly there's only one zoo in North America that has Congo buffalo these days. I'm not sure what's going on here, it might just be another behind-the-scenes holding area, but replacing the hoofed mammal row and more, construction of these 5 large habitats will mark the return of another species that was phased out, the African elephant, who hasn't been spotted in Chicago since 2010. To make things even more interesting, their exhibits are labeled as flexible or flex habitats, which means not only will the elephants rotate amongst these spaces, they will most likely rotate with some species of rhino, and that rotation will be made possible by this one long path called the Savannah Passage that also technically connects the elephant area to almost everything that you see in gold, which right now is simply known as the African Savannah. Cheetahs will go here, the current giraffe and copy house will remain, but the spaces for the Nyala, Klipspringer, painted dogs, and giraffes might be combined to make one large exhibit for the giraffes and possibly other species, who will also rotate through 3 other flex habitats, and one of them is connected to the old 1930s pachyderm house. What they plan on doing is knocking down the north wall, which looks like this, so you can get a close, expansive view of multiple savannas, all while staying indoors. While the south side of the pachyderm house will be transformed into the East African forests, offering underwater views of hippos adjacent to Nile crocodiles in a big, beautiful riverbank setting. But if I had to make a suggestion, and I know it's just a rendering, please, designers, if we can make sure that the hippos can get more land space than that, that would be wonderful. And last but not least, we are going to end this review on the Southwest Australian provinces, an upgrade and expansion to the 1930s Australia building. It looks like the house part is here to stay, but the 4 outdoor yards towards the south side will be absorbed by Gateway to Africa, so Australia will expand north. And I'm now seeing 8 enclosures. There's mention of kangaroos and emus, of course, but also tawny frogmouths, rose-breasted cockatoos, bird of paradises, and 2 habitats for koalas on the outside. And on the inside, we might see some kind of owl, the return of wombats, and Tasmanian devils, another creature that is not easy to get a hold of. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my breakdown and analysis of Brookfield Zoo's next century master plan. Now, you probably have a few questions still, and one of them is, when will all of this be complete? From my understanding, there isn't a comprehensive set-in-stone timeline, but they are saying that this is a 15-year plan with a 30-year vision. I have no idea what that means, but I can tell you that every project is sorted in 3 phases, and I was told that Phase 2 projects will be completed before 2034, the zoo's 100-year anniversary. I was also informed these 2 attractions will be built next. Now, if you're wondering what my overall thoughts are, I definitely admire the zoo's ambition. I have faith that they can pull all of these off. Let's just say that all of these do go to plan as promised. Brookfield Zoo Chicago will be up there with the Omahas, the Bronxes, and the San Diegos as a top zoo in the nation. But I do have one concern. And if I had to say anything to the planners, the designers, construction, and just anyone involved in this, Please do not use tropical forests as a foundation or as inspiration. While it is new and an improvement over Tropic World, the concrete and exposed retaining walls makes the new exhibits look basic and takes away any and all immersion that it could have had. So please take your time, lay off the minimally shaped concrete walls, and just try to make these future projects look as natural as possible. Zoos around the world and the country are doing this. So if you're building snow leopard and takin exhibits, look at Omaha's examples. If you're building something like this for your elephants, look at Disney's Animal Kingdom. A South American Pantanal exhibit? Obviously just go to Houston. Polar bears? Just try to copy what Columbus did, and so on and so forth. I know you can do it, and I also know that it's way easier said than done, and I know the biggest requirement to make these things happen is a lot of money. So, as a viewer, please try and do your part and go to Brookfield Zoo Chicago as quick as you can to show your support. That said, this is where I will leave us for now. As always, stay tuned for our next adventure, stay wild, and thank you all for watching Zoo Tours.